Good morning and welcome to the Daily Cyber Briefing for Wednesday the 30th of July. I'm Stephen Ridgway. Okay, Apple has patched pretty much everything you could imagine. There are patches out for iOS, iOS 18, iPad OS, Mac 15, macOS 15, macOS 14, macOS 13, Watch OS 11, TV OS, Vision OS, and Apple Store Connect. iPad's OS has got an update, but it doesn't relate to any. Oh no, actually no, I think that's not. I think that's a previous one. So there are a bunch of patches that have been pushed out as of yesterday. So if you are running any Apple devices and you are particularly concerned, yes, they'll catch up. If as long as by default you actually have gone and switched it off for them not to go away and do automatic updates. For things, but these are critical security patches. So if you want to get ahead of the game, go nudge your devices and get them patching ASAP. Also, whilst on the subject of Apple, containerisation has been containerisation for seamless Kali Linux has been released on macOS. So Apple has unveiled a groundbreaking, as they say in the article, containerization feature that enables seamless integration of Kali Linux on macOS systems. They say this is a significant advancement in cross-platform development capabilities. It's kind of cool. You do have to install some stuff via Homebrew. Which is those of you that know it. Those of you that don't, it's one of the two. It's probably the largest non-Apple application stores, as it were. So you have to be a little cautious about how what you do, but you can install a thing called Container, and once you've got Container you can then tell it to run Kali Linux. Kind of cool. Certainly worth thinking about if you are in the offensive security space and work with a Mac. So definitely worth having a look at to see what it does. I shall have a little play with it and see how I get on. Okay, the rest of today's briefing, this is going to be pretty short and sharp, but the rest of today's briefing is I came across a little cluster of very interesting articles regarding enterprise large language model security, or lack thereof. At the moment, it looks like major organizations, in fact, all organizations, if you just take a cross-section of all organizations, there is a very large gap between AI adoption at the enterprise level and meaningful security risk analysis and security functional, useful security controls being put in place. Only 6% of organizations appear to have implemented AI native security protections across both sort of IT and AI systems. Around 70% of leaders are concerned or highly concerned about AI uncovering new vulnerabilities in their environments, and only 10% of companies have got a dedicated AI security team. This is not a good place to be. If we are then looking at why this matters, well, okay, firstly, one of the most significant boundaries or hurdles to entry into the being malicious arena is that, or was that, you needed to have a certain level of technical capability. So, yeah, if you've got access to things already, you could just nick the data. That's fine. That's to do with RBAC's different matter, different issue. If, though, as let's say a malicious insider, you decided that you wanted to get hold of a load of things you weren't really supposed to get hold of, in order to do that, you need to know either how to do some social engineering. Possible that you might succeed, probable that you won't. It'd be difficult to socially engineer your account to be elevated. Not impossible, but there are checks and balances. But if you've got the ability to write code exploiting vulnerabilities in systems in order to give yourself access to things you shouldn't have, for just an example, is something you could do. Well, LLMs remove that barrier to entry. You can ask native language, real world language questions of AI, and it will give you real answers. The AI LLMs of the generation that are out there at the moment, firstly, don't clearly segregate user request from system command. Okay. They also don't have a strict concept of the risk associated with the release of certain pieces of information. So they're not categorizing data in a way that you can rely on. And to make it even more complicated, they won't necessarily respond in the same way to the same prompt. How an LLM will respond depends a lot on how you've got it to the point where you're asking it the particular question, which comes back to some of the jailbreak discussions that we had, I think, last week around how do you get an LLM to do something it shouldn't do? Well, you lead it there carefully, and there are various ways you can do that. One is by it seeing that a particular topic is being commonly discussed, and therefore it can't be breaching the guardrails. It can't be outside of the guardrails because everybody's talking about it. So, all right, I'll join in too, if anthropomorphizing, as always, LLMs. And then there are, well, we can get there in little steps without ever explicitly saying, I don't know what, explicitly saying, tell me how to make a bomb. You can get it to do things like, give you information about how to make a Molotov cocktail. Just incrementally asking it little steps, and you will eventually get there. So it is difficult to be certain that confidential information that an LLM or an AI system that has access to will remain confidential. So what should you do about these sorts of things? Microsoft have realized this, I think, mainly because Copilot, at least in an early release, was one of the worst in this respect. So there is some new and updated defense in depth recommendations from Microsoft about how to protect LLMs. Beyond saying it's not all about controlling inputs, it's about understanding outputs, that there isn't really anything groundbreaking in this. The answer is, well, do your best. So rather, I don't know, not disappointing, because at least the thought is beginning to be put into this. It's disappointing that we've got this far with something which really nobody has got a proper grip on. And certainly in the majority of enterprises, very few, 5 to 10% of organizations have really got a grip on this. And I bet you those organizations are looking at it going, oh no, what have we just done? So if you are using AI or LLMs in your organization, definitely worth having a read of these 3 articles. They will give you some insights into some stuff you should be thinking about. But a lot of the core of it is be aware what if you give AI access to your corporate information, it isn't necessarily going to follow your data classification rules, even if you tell it to. And if you haven't explicitly thought about security from an AI perspective, now is probably one of the your last opportunity to begin to really think about this before it becomes a significant issue. Anyway, look, on that doom and gloom, that's all from me for today. I hope you have a good day worrying about your AI systems today, and as I will. No, we don't use it. Well, we do use them, but we use them in very specific ways with very well-defined access to specific bits of data. We just ring fence things so that they can only do the job they're supposed to do. Right. Yeah, have a good day, and I'll speak to you all again